Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Born in June of 1924, Les Greenland had a passion for speed. It began when he won his first soapbox derby at the age of 12 and then blossomed as a test pilot during World War II. And after the war, he would open up an auto repair business in Mansfield, Ohio. And with the president of the local sports car club, he'd then stumble upon this local plot of land bound for foreclosure. In the minds of Griebling, that rural field in Lexington, Ohio held all that a racetrack could be. And on a beautiful day in August of 1962, to the delight of over 30,000 spectators, road racing in central Ohio, mid-Ohio, was born. Hi, everybody, and welcome to season number 9 of the Ray Esports Racing League, presented by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, Spec Racer Sports, Common Gear, and Grass Paddock Motorsports here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Greg Ginsburg with Jack Rich joining me in the announce booth again this season, and along with Lee Thompson in the virtual production trailer, he's bringing you all the great views of tonight's action. And for those of you joining us for the very first time, we've got 4 different classes this season in the Ray Esports Racing League. We've got Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata. They'll be racing tonight, as well as 2 touring classes featuring the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup car in one and the Toyota GR86 Cup car in the other. And each class, they're going to race 6 times over the course of our entire 9-week season. And so it's week number 2, and on tap are 20-minute sprint races. First up are going to be those Spec Racer Fords. You can see them on track right now, hopefully, and we're going to be following that up with some amazing Spec Miata racing from Mid-Ohio a little bit later tonight. And they're out for their very first race of the season, as we have the Spec Racer Fords and also our touring cars race last weekend, or last week, pardon me. And those touring cars, they're going to take the week off. We're going to see them again next Tuesday night when we head out to the West Coast and head out to Sonoma Raceway. And so welcome, Jack, to week number 2 and all the madness that is entailed at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Yeah, Greg, I think we're in for a treat tonight. Last week we saw some really exciting racing, and I think tonight we're going to see the same, especially with that chicane in the first couple corners. I think that might throw a few of these guys for a loop that aren't used to that version of the track, but that's what we're running tonight. So I'm excited to see how that plays out, because the battles are going to be crazy in the first couple laps.
That's right, and as Jack mentioned, we're going to be running what is known as the club course here at Mid-Ohio, as opposed to the pro course. Makes it a 15-turn course, 2.4 plus miles. And let's do this, Jack, early on here. Let's turn things over, as we've been doing for the past season or so, to Morgan Burkhardt. He is going to give us tonight's track guide of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Hello everyone, my name is Morgan Burkhardt for Delta Sport US, and welcome to the 2.4 mile 15-turn Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It's one of my favorite in the country. It's one of the most challenging in the country when it doubles back and it undulates all over the place, coming down the front straight to start this beautiful lap. Coming into turn 1, it's a very fast sweeper. This divider curb between pit exit and the track is very useful. You can use it to rotate the car. We're using the chicane layout, so coming back to driver's left, really just throwing the car into the chicane. You want to keep as tight a radius as possible, minimize the scrub coming up over the keyhole, over the hill of the keyhole. It crests over about halfway through. It's very difficult. The track just falls away, and you kind of have to make a double apex corner out of it. You have to round it off. Some drivers will make one apex and they'll be really late, but it's interesting to see what everybody chooses to do, because at the end of the day, you want to maximize the exit out of that corner down the long back straight to China Beach, which is the most lethal passing zone. On the brakes pretty hard. It's a banked corner. You can carry a lot of speed. You want to be careful about the curb on the inside. And then coming up over the hill at Madness, this is another difficult corner. The track falls away just after the top, so it's hard to put the power down. And then coming through the rest of Madness, it's a really big flow track. You just want to late apex all of it. Make sure you don't get behind yourself, and then setting up for Thunder Valley. And again, coming up over the top of this hill, the track falls away, and it's hard to put the traction down on exit. So it's something you have to be conscious about as a driver, and as you're following other drivers going through the fast left-hander before the carousel. It's a lot like turn 1. You throw the car in and hope it sticks, and then this, I like to make this a double apex corner. It's a flow. You have to brake while you're turning. It's a lot more undulation. It's a big theme at this track, but there's a completed lap at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for Ray Esports in the Global MX-5 Cup car.
All right, thank you so much to Morgan Burkhardt for tonight's track guide of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And, you know, Jack, in watching Morgan hustle that Spec Racer Ford around the course as part of our track guide, and he's been doing it here in qualifying as well, where he's currently our provisional pole sitter. You know, it really shows how much your hands have to move here, how many changes in direction there are, and of course you double that up by looking at the changes in camber and how many corners here, like the keyhole, like the carousel, like the entrance to turn number 9, you know, go off camber. I mean, there's so many challenges here, and never mind the fact that it is also a track that is not exactly a high grip surface either. It's really going to make things challenging for our racers here tonight.
Yeah, these guys really don't get much of a break, as you mentioned. I mean, we're going left, right several times throughout the course, especially in the last sector of the course. So, man, these drivers are going to be up for a challenge, even though it's only 20 minutes tonight. It's not going to feel like 20 minutes after this race is over.
No, I think some of them will probably be wiping the perspiration off of their foreheads after tonight's race. So quickly here, let's take a look in qualifying, and you can see it on our timing tower on the left-hand side of the screen. Morgan Burkhardt from Delta Sport. He is currently your fastest driver on track here in this 15-minute qualifying session, of which we have a little bit less than 4 minutes remaining. Fastest time for him at the moment, a 1:34.91, and that is about just about we can see it there, 92 thousandths of a second up on Beans Forster. And those two drivers, actually no, I guess it was Caleb Patry finished second. Beans Forster actually didn't have a great night last week in Spec Racer Ford, and we're going to go down the finishing order from our first round at Road Atlanta here in just a moment. But Beans Forster, Megan Overstreet with a 1:35.14. So you know, she is now only about 2/10 off of provisional pole. Josh Soto running very strong as well here in qualifying. And if we take a look, we've got between Burkhardt now has just dropped that provisional pole time down to a 1:34.78. So he now has just about a quarter of a second on Beans Forster. But you know, it is not until you get 8 cars deep until you have more than a second separating the field here. Very close, very tight here in qualifying. So let's quickly take a look back at our results from last week, round number 1, race number 1 for the Spec Racer Fords. Morgan Burkhardt took the win at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Caleb Patry, who started 4th in the number 198 machine, he finished up with that silver medal. And Skip Brock Jr., who started 7th on the field, he took the bronze. He came home in 3rd with Nagase Yoshikawa and Josh Soto rounding out the top 5. And Soto, great run for him. He actually started 11th in the field, worked his way all the way up in the 5th. For somebody who's been known primarily as a Spec Miata Mazda MX-5 racer, he is definitely starting to show what he can do behind the wheel of one of these rear-engine sports racers. All right, we're on board now watching Chris Montgomery. And Montgomery in the 313 machine, as I just finished saying that Josh Soto had made up 11 positions last week. Well, Chris Montgomery actually made up 12. He didn't make up 12 positions. He made up 6 positions, started 12th in the field, finished right behind Josh Soto in 6th. But we're going to be on board right now as we only have a minute remaining on the clock. Here, Jack, Beans Forster, who is currently running 2nd in the qualifying here, and he's looking to best Morgan Burkhardt the pole, but it looks like he has a very, very loose car here in qualifying. Did you see that little bit of a drift that he put in going into the chicane?
Yeah, he drifted around a little bit, and then he hit the bumps in turn 1 as well. I think that hurt his speed just a bit as well. It's going to be tough to make up those 2/10 now with that first sector, but it's not impossible. This track is very momentum based, so all you have to do is put together a good rest of your lap, and you might have a chance at the pole here.
All right, so we're going to continue to watch here as we do have a few drivers on the tail end of their last flying laps, as we've got just 10 seconds remaining on the clock. And I believe besides Beans here, about 3/4 of the way through the lap through that very tough turn 9. The car gets very light, comes over that crest of the hill, and you really have to be able to catch it. We'll jump over to Miles Crabb in the 31 machine, who I believe right now, as he comes down through, as he just came through Madness and he's going through S's, he should be able to make it to the line before iRacing kills this qualifying session, as the checkered flag is now out. And now we'll get to see as Miles comes over that rise at turn 9, and it doesn't look all that daunting from our camera view, but I guarantee you when you're behind the wheel, you are definitely trying to make sure that you can keep that car straightened up. As he now goes into the final corners, that is the carousel, and that is always, Jack, always problematic. If you don't hit it right, you got to turn in kind of early. If you run wide, there's no grip, it goes off camber, and what happened to Miles Crabb is what happens to most drivers. You end up losing the rear end. And so I think, let's take a look here. It looks like Josh Soto called off his last flying lap, and that is going to wrap things up now, I believe, for qualifying. We've got one driver. Well, he was out on track. He is driving into the pits now. So we should be setting up here for our first race of the evening here for season 9 of the Esports Racing League in just a moment. But as we wrapped up qualifying there, Jack, Burkhardt, yeah, he really threw down the gauntlet with that 134.78. But it is still 8 drivers within a second of Burkhardt's qualifying time.
Yeah, it might get a little crowded at the front the first couple laps here. There's really not many opportunities to draft away or even stay together. So it could play to Burkhardt's advantage that he has all these opportunities to pull away quickly. But if not, there's a bunch of hungry drivers back there. And I'll give a shout out to Megan Overstreet. I think this is the best qualifying that I've seen her do in the few races that I've done. She usually starts mid-pack, but it looks like she has some speed tonight. So I think she'll be one to look out for.
Indeed, and Megan typically focuses on the open wheel cars and the spec racer Fords more so than the tin tops, and this is a very good start for her. All right, so Jack, here, tell you what, I'll take the first half of the field here. Actually, I'll take the top 10, starting on pole with a qualifying time of 134.776. Morgan Burkhardt with Beans Forster starting off to his right in the number 231 machine. Megan Overstreet, who we were just talking about, she's going to start on the inside of row number 2 in the 044, while Josh Soto will start on the outside of row number 2. Chris Montgomery will start 5th, with Miles Crabb starting 6th. On the inside of row number 4, it's going to be Justin Huffman with Reed Shannabrook starting next to him in 8th. And then rounding out your top 10, Skip Brock Jr. looking for another podium position here tonight. He starts 9th, with Deacon Greenfield starting next to him in 10th.
Starting 11th, we have Caleb Pocock in the 88 and Andrew Rosencroft in the 80. Starting 13th, we have Wayne Buttermore and Joaquin Effinger starting 14th. Starting 15th, we have Sean Condone, and 16th, we have Charlie Vaccaro. Now, I'm not sure if these last two are going to be gridding up, but if they do, we have some really fast guys to look out for in Caleb Patry and Giancarlo Schooler.
Yeah, and we might even have Josh Justice as well, who's a spec racer Ford racer in real life. I'm showing as he checked into the session, but obviously none of those 3 drivers made the grid. Actually, it looks like Justice may have just started from the back of the field. We'll see if Patry and Schooler start from the pit lane, as we have that short pace lap. Not much to go with here, but real quickly here, let me tell you about our sponsor for tonight's race, and that is Spec Racer Sports, whose mission is to help fuel and support your addiction to road racing. And Spec Racer Sports delivers by providing the parts and services you need when you need them at a fair, competitive price, all with exceptional customer support. Located trackside at Motosports Ranch Houston, Austin, Spec Racer Sports offers exceptionally prepared Spec Racer Fords for rental and for sale. They offer storage and support and driver coaching, as well as technical services such as chassis dyno work and fabrication. To find out more about Spec Racer Sports, visit them at specracersports.com. And there you go. Green flag is in the air. Morgan Burkhardt side by side with Beans Forrester coming through turn one. Burkhardt takes all of that curbing that separates the pit lane, almost runs Forrester into the grass. Forrester comes back over, forces him to the inside, and Forrester, if he can stay side by side with Burkhardt, he's going to be in a good position going into the keyhole for the first time. Right behind him, Josh Soto looking for a gap, none to be found at the moment, but Burkhardt now, he slots in ahead of Beans Forrester as they come out of the keyhole. Forster, Soto locked in right to the tail, about a half a car length back to Megan Overstreet with Chris Montgomery and Miles Crabb as they come under braking into turn four for the very first time, as it looks like Soto was thinking about going around the outside of Beans Forrester, could not pull up alongside. A little bit further back, we see in that white machine, that's Reed Shannabrook in the number 14. He's got Crabb, he's got Skip Brock Jr., and he's got Justin Huffman, who I still don't think, I don't think the three of them can figure out who wants to be seventh there, Jack.
Yeah, I don't think they can, and that first couple corners was almost a disaster for Burkhardt and Forrester. They're probably really glad that they were able to get through that cleanly, because if not, that's something that can ruin your race on lap one very quickly. But they got through it, and as we ride along with Caleb Pocock, he's trying to move up through the field. He hasn't lost anything. He's probably just biding his time and thinking he can grab a few positions here soon.
All right, and Pocock finished 14th at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It was a track that was very problematic for a lot of drivers last week. But as we complete lap number one, Morgan Burkhardt is your leader, and he opened up about 3 car lengths on Beans Forrester as they came underneath the bridge, but as they go through turn one and now into the chicane, both Forrester and Soto once again close up onto the back of the number 40 machine. And look here, coming down the inside, Miles Crabb looking to come underneath Reed Shannabrook through the keyhole. Oh, and there's a bit of contact there. That is Deacon Greenfield and I believe Caleb Pocock, as they got side by side on the exit of the keyhole. They're going to fight it all the way down into turn number 4, as we've got the 14 of Shannabrook looking to the inside now as well.
Yeah, as we look back at the lead and we see this about the top 8 or 9 here, they're all separated within, what, maybe a second and a half or so. These guys really do not want to let each other go at all, and I think that's part of the reason why they added the chicane in the first couple corners, right, to keep it nice and close, because I mean, that's what I would do if I was running this league. I would keep them as close as possible, because that's how you get all the excitement.
That's right. I mean, it certainly slows the entrance to the keyhole. It makes the entrance to the keyhole much more difficult, and it also it limits the speed that the drivers carry out of the keyhole as well. It definitely keeps the field close, as we see a little bit of a drift there from Reed Shannabrook coming through the final corners through the keyhole, very much like we saw from Miles Crabb. Oh, and going around Caleb Pocock in the number 88 machine, as he has issues at the carousel, and that is a section of track that just seemingly catches everybody out at some point in their lives. There is it looks as though Josh Justice, who we mentioned did join the pack in the number 99 machine, we just saw him there at the tail end, and he has now made his way up in the 14th, picking up 5 positions.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look here, Jack. I think we've got a replay as we sit on board with Caleb Pocock in the 88 machine coming into the carousel, and yeah, much as we suspected, and we saw that just the same thing just a few moments ago from Shannabrook, although not to the same extent with Shannabrook, and we saw it with Crabb in qualifying, is if you just go a little bit too deep, that rear end will just lose grip and start to walk around on you.
Yeah, it seems like he just got in there just a little bit too hot and he went around, but he was lucky that no one hit him, and they did a nice job avoiding him as well. As we saw Soto almost make the move on Beans Forrester here for P2. He went on the outside but wasn't able to complete the pass quite yet. But there's still plenty of time. There's about 15.5 minutes, and hopefully Pocock can get this race turned around. He had, as you mentioned earlier, he had a really rough week last week, and I don't think he wants another rough week this week, so hopefully he can get that turned around.
No, certainly not. He had a very difficult night in the Spec Racer 4. It's quite a bit better in the touring cars in the GR86s, where he finished just off the podium in fourth. As our leaders now come across the start-finish line, come underneath that Honda bridge to complete lap number 3, start lap number 4. And Megan Overstreet, she's keeping touch, certainly, with our top 3 drivers. She's got Chris Montgomery there to help push her along. And we'll see if they can get maybe a little bit closer here, as it's seemingly as they come out of the keyhole here for the 4th time. Jack, I think Overstreet and Montgomery starting to lose the scent of Burkhardt, Forster, and Soto by just a bit, starting to fall out of the outer limits of that draft. And that is going to be very difficult if they do that, because what will end up happening is they're going to be battling for 4th. Rather than battling for 3rd or even the lead.
Yeah, and it's tough because when you have that line of cars, the further back in that line that you are, the more that you have to check up. So the littlest checkups can really mess up your momentum. And at a track like this, where there's not a lot of draft, it's tough. But it's funny that we talked about that, because the guy in 8th place, Justin Huffman, actually ran the fastest lap, the last lap, by a couple tenths. So I don't know, maybe he has a shot at it. I'm not sure, but it's going to be tough to navigate through this traffic as well.
Hey, and I want to thank some of the folks that have joined us here on YouTube. Brendan Kennedy, fan of the league, who's been joining us religiously for, I think, probably like the last 4 seasons or so. Also want to welcome Charlie Kramer, who's mentioning how incredibly difficult the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course is. He knows this place awfully well. Yeah, as you mentioned, Justin Huffman had just run the fastest lap of the evening, and he is currently sitting down in 8th position. And we'll see if he can use that speed. You know, the challenge here, as we have slowed things down by using that chicane, Jack, is that it perhaps makes things a little bit more difficult, especially if you are out of, maybe on the tail end of a draft, to be able to get back up, to get a great run out of the keyhole and come down under braking in the 4 and try and affect the pass there. And what we're seeing is just not much of a difference in the gaps from when the drivers leave the keyhole to when they go down here in turn 4. Although Beans Forster, he's starting to take some looks to the inside on Morgan Burkhardt there as they come through turn 4. Oh, and it looks like Reed Shannabrook makes a pass on Megan Overstreet as they came through madness. Looks like the number 14 machine maybe getting a little anxious here, and thinking that the best way to go is for him to lead with then Megan Overstreet behind, as Chris Montgomery starting to maybe walk away. I think Overstreet might have had some issues coming through turn 4 that time also.
Yeah, it looked like she slid off in the grass and was able to recover very nicely. I saw it. It was in the very corner of the camera angle that we were looking at, and she slid off in the grass and only lost a couple spots. So I'm sure that she's not happy about losing the spots, but she's got to be happy she didn't lose more than that.
Yeah, but that also means now that Chris Montgomery in that blue 313 machine, he doesn't have that car ahead of him. he's now kind of left without a draft in the front or behind, and he's got to try and find a way to either get up to that pack in the front or maybe drop back just a little bit and pull the cars behind him along. But I think given the 4 or 5 car lengths that separate him now between he and Reed Shannabrook, I think dropping back might be the kiss of death if he wants to get up into that battle for the lead.
Right, because I'm not sure if the rest of that pack is going to know that that's what he's doing. They're going to be like, oh, well, that might be a free spot for us instead. As we look at the top 3 battling again, these guys are running some crazy fast lap times. The last lap, they were all within half a tenth of each other. So I don't know how they're doing it and staying so close together, but they are, and we might have us a really good battle in the late stages of this race.
That's right, and we take a look at the qualifying, or probably not the qualifying times, but their best lap times at this point. Josh Soto, the fastest of our top 3, and I think a lot of that owes to the draft itself, but all of them within very close footing here. Soto with a 1:34.81, Forster a 34.83, so only 0.02 of a second difference, and then Burkhardt at a 34.94, and both Forster and Soto, those are times that are considerably faster than they ran in qualifying. where they were both in the 135 range. Matter of fact, most of our drivers now are quite a bit faster than they ran just a few moments ago during the qualifying session. Chris Montgomery is in the low 35s at a 35.13, which is right around where Forster was when he qualified on the outside of the front row. As we take a look now a little bit further back in the field, and this is Caleb Pocock, who had those issues early on. He is back with Joaquin Effinger in the white and red number 700, the Texas car. Got, I think if we take a look at it on the side, it should say in big letters Tejas, and Charles Vaccaro in the 221 machine. Directly behind Vaccaro, a spec racer, Ford racer as well from the Northeast.
Yeah, these guys are battling just as hard as the top three are. Every position matters, right? I mean, as we have a little bit of contact, and Megan was run off the course, it looks like, by Reed Shannabrook.
Yeah, that was Reed Shannabrook. Yeah, went real deep, and she couldn't get turned in. He didn't turn in because he went so deep that, again, he lost grip and the rear end rotated. And yeah, lots of issues there as Megan Overstreet, who had been running fourth, now sitting in 8th position. Shannabrook loses spots to both Miles Crabb and Justin Huffman. He now finds himself in 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at this again, and we can see that Shannabrook's still having a problem with a loose rear end. Let's take a look as they come down under braking, and this is into turn 4, into in the madness there, and or right before madness, and just real late on the brakes from the number 14 machine, giving Overstreet really nowhere to go.
Yeah, and it seems like ever since she made that mistake earlier, she may have not been able to, cool down the tires or anything like that. These cars are very sensitive, especially on this tire model, to heated up tires. So if you're not able to cool them down within a lap or two, they're just going to stay hot and they stay slick. And as you mentioned earlier, this track already has no grip, so that's unfortunate for her. But hopefully she can get back up there. She has really good speed tonight. So, I mean, she recovered last week without a hood. So I think anything's possible for her.
That's right. She had a great race last week at and Beans Forster late on the brakes, loses the rear end going into turn 4. I was just going to say that Burkhardt and Forster had started to separate themselves from Josh Soto, but Soto now is running in 2nd. Forster is going to fall all the way back into 6th position for what could have been a fatal mistake for the 231 machine, as we've got now less than 8 minutes remaining in this race.
Yeah, it looks like he got in there way too hot and spun it around. He's lucky he didn't get hit, but I mean, I think that takes him out of contention for this victory tonight for sure.
And Charlie Kramer's sitting in the chat saying he wish he had driver comms like Formula One. Well, Charlie, I hate to break the bubble for you, but I can listen in to what they're saying. Sorry about that. I guess one of the perks of the job. But here we go as we start lap number 9, and Burkhardt now has about 2/3 of a second lead over Soto. Soto maybe made up a little bit of ground, as I think Burkhardt had checked up when Forster started to go around. I think Burkhardt had maybe a little concern that he might be collateral damage and had checked up a little bit going in the 5, but Soto still a bit of a distance back. He got a real good run out of the keyhole, though, knocked off about 0.15 of a second. We'll see, as he is definitely still within the draft there, if he can, maybe with some late braking, close things up to the number 40 machine.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough because, as we just saw with late braking on this track, it can get really treacherous really fast, and all three of those guys were pushing it to the edge really early. I was watching the hands of Soto especially, and man, he was trying to save it and correct it so much that, the littlest overcorrection can send you out into the grass or spun around. So it's going to be tough for him to make up that gap and, drive it in deep to pass Burkhardt, but anything's possible.
As we go back on board with Justin Huffman, who now finds himself up in 5th position after the incidents with Shannabrook, Overstreet, and also Beans Forster. Forster actually directly behind the 223 machine right now. But, as you were talking about the hand positioning from Josh Soto and how busy the hands are, watch what Justin Huffman does here. And Justin's got a lot of seat time at the real Mid-Ohio in his Formula car, but his hands are just dead smooth. He puts in really, for the most part, one steering input for a corner, and that's it. And he'll open up the wheel as he comes out, but just very steady hands. And I suspect he's doing the exact same thing with the pedals as well.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like he's really smooth, and like you said, he's only turning it just slightly enough to get into the corner, and that's the way you want to be. But sometimes, and especially like slower cars like this, on iRacing, it's a little tougher to be faster like that, as we have a battle for the lead. Soto looks like, oh man, he took it right here. Let's see if he drives it in too deep. Doesn't look like he did, and he's able to clear him. Nice.
That's right. So Soto was able to use the draft, was able to make up a half a second to get up to Burkhardt, but Burkhardt's now going to try and return the favor. He's side by side through the S's here. Yep, we look back and there's no other car there. That's because he's right beside him as they come now under braking into turn 9. They're going to rise up over the hill and go into Thunder Valley, and Josh Soto comes out great exit speed out of turn number 9 as they are side by side, and if Soto can hold on and stick to the inside, he'll have position going into the keyhole here. Let's see if he can make this pass stick.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he was saving tires or something back there, and maybe we didn't see it. I don't know, but it looked like his hands were awful busy earlier, but he's able to complete the pass on Burkhardt, and it's going to be up to Burkhardt to make that pass back on him. I don't know if he can. All
right, so we've got 4 minutes remaining here for our Spec Racer Ford 20-minute sprint race. Josh Soto's your leader, Morgan Burkhardt second, Chris Montgomery now sitting up in 3rd position, but he is about 4.5 seconds back from our leaders. Miles Crabb finds himself in 4th with Beans Forster in 5th, and you can see here, look at the, and I saw this as they came into the carousel as well. Burkhardt expecting to carry more speed through some of these corners, and he's having to check up as he's already in the corner to keep from running into the back of Josh Soto. As Burkhardt now uses the draft, he's going to go around the outside, and this is actually where you want to make the pass if you can, going into turn number 4. It's from the outside because it'll set you up underneath going through Madness and down the hill. Of course, it switches back almost immediately, and Josh Soto has the inside line going into the S's.
Yeah, Soto has to be wondering, how do you defend that, right? Because you can stay to the inside, and for the first couple corners, you're at a disadvantage, and then after the next corner, you're at an advantage. And as we see Burkhardt's trying it again, he's going to the outside of him. Oh, man, what a race.
Yeah, and here we go. And so once again, though, Soto playing it well as they came out of turn 9 to set himself up so that he's on the inside going into the carousel. It's going to make Burkhardt go a much longer way around unless he wants to just tuck in behind the 07, which is exactly what he does. Now, Burkhardt's going to try and carry speed out of the final corner, and coming down underneath the Honda bridge into turn number 1, he's got the inside line. And, you know, you could just tell the speed that he must have carried through the final corner. But there you go. Soto now squares things up as they come into the chicane.
Yeah, and these two better be careful, too, because their lap times are falling about a half second to a second off a lap. And Montgomery will be up here. And, you know, potentially if these guys slow each other down more and more. But, wow, what a battle is. Oh, no.
Oh, and big wiggle from Burkhardt.
Nice save.
And as they come out, and so we saw that, and this is one of the things that changes. Oh, maybe a little bit of contact there. When you use the chicane, Burkhardt tried to get the car down to the inside going through the keyhole, and he pushed wide, and you saw there where the lack of grip really came back to bite him on the exit, as Soto's running a very strong race right now with Burkhardt. Comes down the outside of Madness. He'll now have inside position coming down through turns through 6 and 7, through the S's, coming over to turn 9.
These guys are using each other up in the cleanest way possible. It's so fun to watch, but this shouldn't even be possible for what they're doing. They are wheel to wheel in every corner of the racetrack right now.
And when either Morgan Burkhardt or Josh Soto cross the line, we'll have the white flag in the air, as we've got just now 1 more lap and 2 turns here remaining from Mid-Ohio and Spec Racer Ford as they are side by side. Soto tries to push Burkhardt all the way down to the inside, coming out of the final corner, coming out of 13, and they now are probably 15 as they now come down into turn 1, and it looks like a mirror image. Deja vu all over again as we start our final lap here from Mid-Ohio.
And as we watched, we saw the brake lights turn on and off almost at identical times for these two. They are driving to the absolute limit as they can. I mean, it's for the win on the last lap. You have to, right? Oh, as we have a little bit of contact, but they keep on going. That's about the third time I think they've made contact, but Soto's got the advantage for right now. What's he going to do in these next couple corners, though? He's been defending on the inside and the outside, so I think he's going to choose the inside. He's going to see if it works again.
Well, I don't think he's got a choice. Burkhardt put him to the inside there, and he's not going to let him move away. Burkhardt now opens things up. Perhaps this actually makes things a little bit easier for Soto as he opened up the corner a little bit, let Soto move a little bit away from driver's right. And Burkhardt now is going to lead the 07 machine down the hill through Madness and into the S's. And we just watched, what, I think 3 laps total side by side between these two drivers. An absolutely amazing battle. And then also side by side is the battle for third, as it's Chris Montgomery and Beans Forster now has made up 4 positions, and he finds himself back in 4th position as they have just a couple more corners to go as our leaders come out of Thunder Valley, head into the carousel. Morgan Burkhardt's your leader, and he pushes a little deep, but he should be able to hold off the 07 car now as they come out of the final corner. And taking the win in Spec Racer Ford, Morgan Burkhardt, 4/10 back Josh Soto, and to the line side by side. Who's going to get third? It's Chris Montgomery holding off Beans Forster by 9/100ths of a second. Forster will finish 4th. Justin Huffman starts 7th, finishes in 5th. Miles Crabb will come home in 6th. Megan Overstreet will finish 7th. Reed Shannabrook 8th. Skip Brock 9th. Andrew Wozencroft 10th. And here's a great battle going on. Josh Justice, who started at the tail end of the field with Deacon Greenfield. This is the battle for 11th. And as they come to the line, Josh Justice makes up 8 positions in 20 minutes. He is going to finish in 11th. Deacon Greenfield finishes just behind in 12th. Great little fight there on the last lap for them as well. All right, so let's take a look here. Going to wait for some of our drivers to come into the green room. Hopefully we'll get to talk to a few of them there. There's Morgan Burkhardt, who's just popped into the green room. Let's see if Josh Soto appears as well. Tell you what, in the meantime, because I know we're going to have to, we're fighting time to get ready for our next race. Let's bring in Morgan Burkhardt, winner of our first race. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's bring in Josh Soto. He just showed up. Josh Soto, driver of the number 07 machine, finishing 2nd tonight here in Spec Racer Ford.
Josh, you had a heck of a battle with Morgan Burkhardt those last 3 or 4 laps. Walk us through it, because, I mean, we didn't really think you had much of a shot there.
Oh yeah, yeah, we just I was able to catch up to Morgan after Beans had one off, and decided to you know, just try to make it interesting. But yeah, coming into the last lap, I think it was going up to turn 3. I had went a little bit wide. Accidentally hit Morgan, and I had well, then I got off the throttle a little bit. But yeah, it was a really good fight going into the last round there.
Yeah, it was a fun battle for us to watch. I'm sure all the viewers at home enjoyed it as well. But man, another podium finish though, a P2 tonight. That has to be something nice to build on for the rest of the season. But congratulations for that. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
Oh yeah. I'd like to thank Apex Racing TV. You guys, Josh Ritchie and Greg Ginsberg, you guys do a great job interviewing and all this stuff. And yeah, I'd like to thank the league.
Alrighty, well, we will see you later on tonight, hopefully, or next week for the next race. Thank you, and thank you for providing that show tonight. Wow, what a battle.
Oh yeah, thank you.
All right, there you go. That was Josh Soto, and yeah, Josh is a specialist in the MX-5s. I'd be very surprised if we don't see him in a few moments. All right, let's move over to our winner tonight in Spec Racer Ford, Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 machine.
Morgan, we interview you quite a bit, so I think we're on a first name basis here by now. Walk us through that race tonight, because that was exciting for us to watch.
Well, it was a lot of fun from my perspective. We kind of just wanted to go out and set the pace from the beginning. I noticed that it was like 1 8 or 9 car pack for a good long while, and then we started to Ben, me, and Josh all started to separate out a little bit. So I was just kind of control the pace, look after my tires, try not to make too many mistakes. And then I went a little bit deep going into China Beach, and Beans got out of the throttle and onto the brakes on exit to try and not tag me, and it put too much weight on my nose and it went right around on him. So I was sad to see, but I then made a small mistake going through the keyhole, and that's what started the 4 or 5 lap long side-by-side battle with Josh, which was a ton of fun.
I was going to ask you about the Beans incident, because I mean, you have to be thinking there, he's spinning out and you're like, oh no, I got to gas it up so I'm not part of that one, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I wanted to kind of get away as quick as possible. I was wondering if I could kind of get a little bit of a gap to Josh, but the draft is just so powerful. If he's within 6 or 7 tenths and you're not half a second, 7 tenths a lap faster, it's just, you're not going to be able to break away, especially at a track like this where the draft is so powerful.
Well, we were glad for that, because you guys put on a heck of a battle, and it was so fun to watch. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for this week?
I'd like to thank Beans and Josh for helping us put on a great show. It was so much fun to drive from the driver's standpoint. I'd like to thank you guys for making us all look good on a stream, and Stevie Ray and Greg Gubler for setting up the league for us.
Alrighty, thank you, and hopefully we'll see you in the Mazdas later on tonight.
You indeed will.
All right, there you go. That was Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 Spec Racer Ford, taking the win in tonight's first race here from Mid-Ohio. And so, Jack, let's take a quick little break. Let's thank some of our partners and sponsors that are bringing you all this great action here on Apex Racing TV. And when we come back, it's going to be Spec Miata action here in 15-turn, 2.4-mile Mid-Ohio sports car course. You're watching season number 9 of the Ray Esports Racing League, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And welcome back to a virtual Mid-Ohio sports car course where we're watching season number 9 of the Ray Esports Racing League. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Jack Ritchie. And Jack, after that stupendous Spec Racer Ford battle between Morgan Burkhardt and Josh Soto, we're going to do it all over again now. Not with Spec Racer Fords, but with the Spec Miatas, the Mazda MX-5 Global Cup cars. And we've got our drivers out on track now. They were about 4.5 minutes into their qualifying session. Morgan Burkhardt, oddly enough, he's your provisional pole sitter already. Turns in one flying lap, goes to the top of the leaderboard with a 138.81. With Beans Forster about 8/10 off that time, currently second fastest in the 231 machine with a time of 139.65. And then Megan Overstreet in the 044 machine. She's looking for a little redemption, I think, after her problems in Spec Racer Ford. She is currently the third fastest machine. There's the purple and pink number 244, or probably 044. And as she crosses the start-finish line, she now moves ahead of Beans Forster. She puts herself up at second with a 139.43. But look at that, Reed Shanabrook, her nemesis from race number 1 jumped up ahead of her, and now here come Forster and Soto as well, jumping over the 044 machine, putting her back in 5th position.
Yeah, I think it's so impressive how all of these drivers are able to just hop in a whole different car and come out here and set the fastest laps that they do. I mean, they do it each and every week. A lot of these guys run both series, all 3 series really, and I mean, that's so cool to see, and it shows how much talent that these sim racers really have.
Yeah, to be able to move into a vehicle where the driving dynamics are so totally different, literally within 5 minutes, and to go and start putting down flying laps and going up to the top of a leaderboard or what have you, really hard to fathom here. I mean, some of these kids, I mean, I know that the name obviously for the top virtual racers are aliens, but even if these aren't the cream of the creme de la creme, I still think they're aliens for being able to get in and do that and just jump from car to car. All right, so real quick, as we're less than halfway through this qualifying session here for the Spec Miatas, let's quickly take a look back to last week and our touring car action, where we had both of the Touring 3 and Touring 4 classes, our GR86 and Volkswagen Jetta classes, out on track for their first 20-minute sprint race of the season. And to make things more interesting, we put them on track at the same time. So not only do they have to fight within their own classes, oh, wow, look at that hit, Andrew Wozencroft going off at turn 11. And a big hit of the wall. Actually, that wasn't Wozencroft, pardon me. I think that was, I think that might have been Wayne Buttermore, actually, in the 73 machine that went into the wall. But in the GR86s, Josh Soto, who we just talked to, took the win. He started on pole and took it all the way to the checkered flag. Beans Forster finished second. Miles Crabb third, with Caleb Pocock and John Wilson rounding out the top 5. And again, that was in the GR86s, and I don't think we need to run down the points standings this early on, but you can imagine it's in the same order that I just read off to you. In the Volkswagen Jettas, and remember, with the Jettas in our T4 class, our drivers are looking to win one of 2 available seats being given by Paddock Motosports, the sponsor for that class, where they are going to be providing an arrive and drive package, one for a licensed competition racer in real life to race in either an SCCA or Grid Life or another sanctioning bodies road races, and then one for a non-competition licensed driver in order to obtain their racing license. And we'll be picking the winners of those 2 seats at the end of the calendar year. It'll be myself, Stevie Ray, and also Frank Schwartz from Paddock Motorsports. We are the committee who will be deciding the fate, and those prizes, they are not based on who wins the most races. They are based on clean racing, performance improvement, and also participation over the entire calendar year, not just this single season. And so Morgan Burkhardt took the win, and it was a commanding win in Touring 4 in the Jettas, 9.1 seconds over Tom Pendergrass. But Pendergrass had a great run, whereas Burkhardt started from pole, and he had a pretty easy run of it almost all evening long. Tom Pendergrass started 10th in Touring 4, worked his way all the way up to the second step of the podium. Reed Gibson started 8th, finished in 3rd, and Seth Spolman, who was actually dialing in. He certainly wasn't phoning it in. He's racing from Seoul, South Korea. Started 11th and finished just off the podium in 4th. So it was a great outing for those drivers. But again, this is the very first race of the season for our Spec Miatas here. And this race, as you see there in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, sponsored by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. And let's talk a little bit about them here. Jack, built for the true sports car enthusiast, Grassroots Motorsports has one mission, and that is to be your personal guide to the sports car world, whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print or in person. The racers and builders, the car nerds at Grassroots Motorsports, will take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in driveways. They also maintain a collection of staff-built project cars because hands-on technical articles, Jack, they're not typed behind a desk, they're scribbled down in the garage. To not only read but become part of the story, head on over to grassrootsmotorsports.com. All right, so let's take a look here, and as qualifying is unfolding, and looks like Burkhardt, he's got pretty much an iron fist. He's got a heck of a grip on this class right now.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. But Soto moved up in the second, about 8/10 back still, so no one's really made a challenge too much at the pole. But I mean, there's still a couple minutes here. Maybe everybody's saving what they really got. Who knows? But right now, Burkhardt is enjoying his large gap to second, and it's a replay of what we saw in the first race as well from tonight. So Forrester, Soto, and Burkhardt top 3, with Crab and Overstreet rounding out the top 5. I think we're going to see a little bit more tighter racing than the last one. I mean, the last race was tight, but these things are heavy on the draft, and as much sliding around as there is, and with all the twists and turns in this track, I mean, I think we're going to see some exciting racing tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And, and these are cars that you can pretty much drive with your right foot. With a little throttle modulation goes a long way with these cars to get them to change attitude. It's not all steering, and if you do just get out of the throttle, you don't have the lift-off oversteer that we saw earlier in the Spec Racer Ford. Should also mention that there is only now I believe, well, there was a 200th of a second difference between Forster and Soto. I think that has opened up just a little bit. It is now a 300th of a second difference between Forster and Soto for the outside pole, as we've been following John Wilson in the number 82 machine, in that gray, red, and blue Summit Racing machine, and it looks like both he and Deacon Greenfield having some troubles at turn 9. That corner, and I'm amazed that the Spec Racer Fords did not have more problems there. It is a car that will completely unweight your machine, and you got to have the wheel all squared up. You also can't turn in early there. Otherwise, you may have the rear end walk around before you even get to the apex. But great run as we're on board right now with Skip Brock Jr. And Skip has had some real good runs in the real life Spec Miata of late, Jack. I think I mentioned it last week as he gets a little loose coming through madness. I was watching him race at the real life Virginia International Raceway 2 weekends ago, where he came away with a number of podiums in about a 40-car Spec Miata field. So good to see Skip out here racing with us here this week as well.
Yeah, I bet he's a lot happier to be in the virtual version of the car rather than the real-life version. You don't have to worry about wrecking or, fixing anything if it goes wrong. You can tear this thing up all you want. Hey, no money's going to come out of your pocket.
Exactly. All right, so we've got 1 minute remaining here in qualifying. We're watching Deacon Greenfield right now in the 36 machine, and he's, we saw that slide that he took over at turn 9 earlier. Looks like he had some issues in coming through turn 1 here. We've got a very loose setup. It appears he is currently qualified 12th, as he and many of our other racers, including Andrew Wozencroft here in the number 80 machine, the second car in line, working their last flying laps. It looks like Wayne Buttermore has pulled his car off track. The Buttermore machine, the purple number 73, pulled off going down the back straight. Looks like he felt that he wasn't going to set a fast lap on this last flyer.
Yeah, it looks like Soto also brought down the gap just a little bit and pulled away from Beans by about a 10th, rather than the 300th that we were talking about earlier. So he's got to feel pretty good about that. But man, Morgan with that what a big gap to the rest of the field. He's got to be feeling pretty good going into this race.
Yeah, and you know, some of the drivers that we thought were going to be here for Spec Racer Ford that usually put on a very good show in the Spec Miatas, like a Caleb Patry, like a Giancarlo Schooler. They're not here in qualifying, so we'll see if the rest of the field can take it to Morgan Burkhardt here, as looks like one of our drivers decided to call off their last lap, but Wozencroft had the benefit of the draft almost all the way around, and Wozencroft was qualified 6th. Let's see if he can improve and maybe move ahead of Megan Overstreet into 5th. He does not improve. He puts in a 140.85 on that last lap, his previous best, a 38.97, just 0.05 of a second off of Overstreet's time, so that will likely make up your third row for you. Overstreet and Wozencroft. As we're following now Michael Mueller, new to the series this season. Michael is currently running 15th in the number 24 machine. Let's see if he improves. He puts in his best lap time, but about 4/10, pardon me, off of Kyle Vallejos.
On the very last second, Megan moved up to 4th. Nice lap from her.
Yeah, as she gets around her nemesis from from race number 1, Miles Crabb. So move Overstreet now to the outside of row number 2, and Crabb down to row number 3. And we'll have our drivers start to grid up here in just a moment, but want to quickly here let you know about some of the venues that we have coming up in the Ray Esports Racing League. I think I mentioned at the Open, we're going to be at Sonoma Raceway next week, and that is always a great time. Very tough course to pass on, but great racing always there at Sonoma. And then we're going to be going to Watkins Glen at the end of May 30th, and then of course to my home track, place that I call home, Summit Point Raceway, at the beginning of June. Should be a good time. But some great places actually going to be leaving the U.S. I think for the first time. Going to be heading to Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park as well. All right, Josh, why don't you run down the first part of the starting order here?
Already on the front row, we got Morgan Burkhardt and Josh Soto. Same two from the last race, so we'll see if these two get to battling again. Row 2, we have Benjamin Forrester and Megan Overstreet with a nice qualifying lap. In row 3, we have Miles Crabb and Andrew Rosencroft. Row 4, we got Reed Shannabrook and Skip Brock Jr. And row 5, we have Charles Bowley and John Wilson. Row 6, we have Joshua Justice and Deacon Greenfield.
All right, and then we've got Justin Huffman. He's going to start on the inside of row number 7 with Kyle Vallejo starting right next to him in 14th position. Michael Mueller will start 15th with Caleb Pocock starting 16th in the 88 car. Rich Green will start 17th driving the number 12, while Don Manning will start next to him on the outside of row number 9. And your 10th row, it's Wayne Buttermore and Sean Condon starting 19th and 20th with Charles Vaccaro and Joaquin Effinger making up row number 11. And here we go, and I'm not going to try and read an ad right in the middle of the pace lap here this time, Jack, as we get ready for that Porsche pace car to bring Morgan Burkhardt. And actually, I think we're still waiting for Morgan Burkhardt to check into the session. There he is. There is the number 40 machine, and that now should start things off with the pace car, as we're going to get underway with our very short pace lap from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And now we are underway.
I mean, you can try again. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but I was entertained the first time you did it.
No. I'm not. I've got about 3 more sentences, and I'm not tempting fate. Some nice burnouts at the back of the field, and this is always the difficult part. Is these drivers try to get underway, and you go down into the carousel. It really leads to a very stretched out field. But Burkhardt has got the first 4 rows right behind him as the green flag is in the air, and we are racing from Mid-Ohio. Josh Soto, the great jump, about a half a car up going into turn number 1. Let's see what happens as they come through. Burkhardt taking a little bit of that curve. Oh, and a slide and a drift from Burkhardt. And on the opening lap, he goes around. He gets into another driver there. And Morgan Burkhardt is now going to drop all the way to the tail end of the field, 18th. That is going to leave Megan Overstreet in the lead. Overstreet gets loose on cold tires going through the chicane. She's now in the grass. Nobody wants to lead this race, but maybe Don Manning and Beans Forster will as they come out of the keyhole. Beans Forster's your leader. Andrew Wozencroft now moves up into second. Reed Shannabrook into third. Skip Rock Jr. fourth. Josh Soto, who started on the outside of the front row, had to check up for Burkhardt. He's now down in 5th position as they're coming down into turn 4 for the first time, with Shannabrook all the way taking a look to the inside. And Jack, cold tires, cold tires, cold tires.
I know we talked about that in the pre-race, and I think Don Manning went from last to first to last, all in the matter of about 5 seconds, because he had spun and went so far into the grass that he took the lead. And my goodness, wow. That was an insane start. I think every leader that we had there for a minute spun out, but I think Soto's the only one that was able to recover nicely. He is in 5th. As for our other leaders, Megan's back in 15th, and Morgan is 16th.
16th. He's made up 2 positions already. We'll see what he can do in 20 minutes. But Beans Forster, Reed Shannabrook, Skip Rock Jr. had gotten very loose coming out of turn 4 earlier, going up to Madness. He got that car squared back up, and it is now about, well, we take a look. Everybody's in a row here. Now Josh Soto taking a look to the inside of Wozencroft. And as they come through turn number 1 side by side, Wozencroft's going to have position coming into the chicane, but yeah, Soto's going to try and push him wide.
He looks like he's able to do that and clear him barely. Nope. Wozencroft's coming back on the inside now. Soto's got him, but man, this just opened up the race wide open. It took out 2 of our favorites. Soto's still in 4th, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to pass all 3 cars. That's a big challenge, and I mean, passing here is as difficult as it is. So, man, what an exciting race to watch here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this gives Beans Forster a little shot at redemption after his spin midway through the Spec Racer Ford race. But Shannabrook in that 14 machine, who had his share of issues and problems in Spec Racer Ford earlier tonight, he is looking very strong. And Skip Rock Jr., who I believe towards the end of last season, season 8, came home with a couple of podiums here in the Miatas. So we'll see how things play out as now great move coming underneath Deacon Greenfield is Kyle Vallejos in the number 35 machine. Cannot make it stick through turn 9, but Greenfield had opened the door as they now come through turn 11, head down into the carousel here for the 2nd lap. Great little scrap going on there between Josh Justice and Deacon Greenfield, which was the pair we saw right at the end of the Spec Racer Ford race as they were battling it out for 11th. So looks like those 2 back together once again. The difference, though, the tide has turned here, Jack, as Josh Justice may race a Spec Racer Ford in real life, but Deacon Greenfield races a Miata in real life. So we'll see how this plays out.
And these 2 are trying to get bragging rights on each other. It's like, hey, I drive this car in real life, but I did better than you did. So what's up with that? But we talked about earlier how important the draft is, and Shannabrook and Skip Rock Jr. are really going to have to use that draft to stay with Beans Forrester, I believe. I don't think that they have the raw pace that he does, but with the strength of the draft, that's what's going to give them this opportunity. And these 2 are probably going to have to work together if they want to have any chance at this victory later on tonight, and especially holding off Josh Soto. So I think that's going to be a fun race to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, because I think the tires are coming up to temperature here pretty soon. It takes 2 or 3 laps, and once they do, it's going to be we'll really see who has the speed to keep up with Beans.
Well, and if you watch here, and you said we were talking, as Forster looks at his rearview mirror and sees Reed Shannabrook get loose, and that gives the advantage to Skip Brock Jr. coming through Thunder Valley, and Skip Brock gets around the green number 14 machine as they come now down into the carousel. But that also, you know, if we look back, and you mentioned Josh Soto there, the last time we watched Josh Soto, he was fighting it out with Andrew Wozencroft going into the chicane, about 15 car lengths back from our lead trio. Well, Josh Soto is now part of the lead quartet. He is right back behind Shannabrook there, sitting in fourth. And it's amazing. We saw Shannabrook have that little bit of a bobble, and that has now allowed Beans Forster to open up about 5 car lengths. We'll see, though, if coming here onto the back straight, whether these 3 machines, Brock, Shannabrook, and Soto, can then close back up to the 231.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if they, you know, if Beans can open up that gap to about a second or so, then he may have this race won. I mean, he'll be right outside of the draft, but it's going to be up to these 3 right here to not let that happen. And if he plays his cards right, he can use these 2 as kind of like a pick, because he knows that Josh Soto has to get through these 2 and, you know, and able to challenge him. He can't just drive right through him. He's got to be able to find a way to pass him. And as we've seen all night, passing is extremely difficult. So, I mean, it's a very interesting race. Even as short as this race is, I mean, there's a lot of action-packed stuff happening.
You know, I just saw a very interesting move here from Shannabrook, as Shannabrook's taking a look to the inside on Skip Brock Jr., and it was going down into turn 4, heading down towards that huge gravel trap known as China Beach. And Shannabrook, who was sitting in and there's contact there between the 68 of Skip Brock Jr. He goes around, and I think Shannabrook might have been involved with that as well, as that now opens things up just a bit. And Josh Soto, and it might have actually been Soto, because Soto now is showing his back behind Andrew Wozencroft. Hopefully we'll be able to pull up, hopefully get a replay. Yeah, let's take a look. I think we've got it queued up. Let's see exactly what happened there at the front of the field. Yeah, going in side by side into the carousel.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I think from the brake lock up there, I'm thinking that there might have been a little bit of contact between Shannabrook and Skip Brock Jr. Could not see it from that angle. You know, I don't want to go and misspeak, but that is now going to move Skip Brock Jr. down through the field, as we saw him go back to the pit lane, as he got clouded there as he was turned around in the carousel. But I was going to say, when Shannabrook had that little wiggle, that had he'd moved, or probably not the wiggle, but as they went down into turn 4, Shannabrook moved to driver's right to hold off an advance that Josh Soto wasn't even showing his nose, did not even make. And it caused them to lose even more ground to Beans Forster. So, and Forster now with, I think, over a second, looks like a second and a half on the rest of the field, as we've been watching now still this battle between Josh Justice and Deacon Greenfield. This is now the battle for 5th, as both of these drivers have made up 5 positions. Oh, and there's contact, and Soto is going to go off in the dirt going into the carousel. Little, as they say, little argy-bargy there, as Soto and Greenfield get together. That was not what you want to see, and just behind them, a little hard to tell that it's actually a Mazda Miata there from the front. That's Morgan Burkhardt, who fell all the way back to 18th position. He is now in 7th with a Miata in need of rhinoplasty.
Yeah, it looks like one of those cars that you see at your local track that do the wintertime demo derbies, or,
yes,
you know, the enduro events that they have where it's the last car to survive wins. I think that's what he's going to go and do after this race.
But this is very,
down the road.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much like what we saw with Megan Overstreet at Road Atlanta last week in the Spec Racer Fords, when it was missing the entire nose piece, and very much the same here. That MX-5 has got to be a challenge right now, a real fight to keep on track. It looks very skittish. That is for sure.
Yeah, and it looks like it's a little faster than a lot of people still, though, as he takes over 6th place from Deacon Greenfield. I think he's on a mission to try to get back into the podium position. That thing is sliding around now, so he's going to have his work cut out for him. Yeah. But Josh Soto looks like he just took P3 again, and something I wanted to mention about both of the incidents he's been involved in tonight, it was 2 times he got out in the grass and just could not control the car, because as we know, grass and iRacing is like ice.
Ice,
but
exactly.
He is probably wanting them to pave this entire place, because I don't think he wants to see or touch grass again tonight, because my goodness, that's just been a disaster for him in this race.
No, certainly not here. As again, we continue to follow Morgan Burkhardt, who is our pole sitter tonight, on one heck of a recovery run as he gets around. Oh, and there is Andrew Wozencroft, who has issues at turn number 1, and he is missing some body work as well, and it looks like a lot of damage to the right front. And I'm wondering if he got up onto the curbing. There's that little bit of curbing that separates the exit of the pit lane from the main track, and that is something, if you hit it wrong, it can throw your car around. Lee, any chance that we might have the replay there of what happened to Andrew Wozencroft, the 80 car? I'll take that silence as no. I'm sorry, do we have a replay with Wozencroft over at turn 1? Just had the incident a moment ago. All right, here we go. And we'll take, can we roll back a little bit from there and see what started it? Ah, here we go. All right, here's Wozencroft coming into turn 1. Let's see what happens.
Oh.
And
yep, too much of the curb. And then tires. Oh my goodness.
And then too much of the wall. Yeah. As his front bumper bounces 15 feet in the air multiple times. All right, Morgan Burkhardt now.
E4.
Yeah, gets around Charles Bailey in the black number 63 machine, and so that's going to move Burkhardt up now into 4th position. As we were trying to get that replay, he had gotten around John Wilson and Charles, and now just gets around Bailey. Now there's a pretty good-sized gap, as you can see there, between Burkhardt and Soto. About 4 seconds, I think, at the moment, as we jump a little bit further back. And Justin Huffman, who had a pretty stellar race in the Spec Racer Fords, and battling it out with Megan Overstreet. This is the battle for 9th right now, as Overstreet is on her recovery run as well.
I don't think Megan ever wants to qualify in the top 5 again, because she did that 2 times tonight and was in incidents in both races. Man, that's disheartening, but she looks like she's taking over 9th place here, and she's going to recover and hopefully get a decent finish. I wanted to give a shout out to Caleb Pocock. He has had a rough couple races so far, but he's gained 8 positions and is running P8 at the moment, so good job for him. And Morgan Burkhardt, we were talking, he is the fastest car on the track with that damaged vehicle.
With the damage.
Yeah, he is about a half second faster than the rest of the field at least.
Wow.
So, oh man.
Yes, he's running in the 138. He's running a 138.6, which is about 0.2 of a second faster than Josh Soto, I think, is the next fastest driver on track. And so this coming up is not a battle for position. This is Joaquin Effinger in the number 700 machine directly ahead of Burkhardt. There you go. There's Josh Soto just coming through turn 1. So you can see the difference there. And Effinger keeps the car all the way to the outside to allow Burkhardt to come underneath.
I almost wonder if it's one of them deals where Morgan really doesn't have that damage and iRacing is just showing it as he does. I'm not sure, because it's amazing that he's able to run the laps that he's running with little to no effect on his car. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and so we also in the Ray Sports Racing League give our drivers one fast repair. So as long as they can get down to the pit lane and get into their pit stall, they will get the car repaired to pretty much pristine condition almost immediately. The downside is when you have a 20-minute sprint race, of which we're almost now 3/4 of the way through, you're going to lose a lot of track position. And so, for example, we just saw Andrew Wozencroft back out on track, and there he is just ahead of these racers in that orange and yellow machine. Went down the pit lane, and miraculously you hit some Armco or some tire wall at 50 miles an hour, and 30 seconds later you're back out racing again. It's actually pretty neat. I wish I could do it in real life.
Yeah, right. It saves you a lot of money too. It
That's
doesn't
right.
cost to respawn that car, so.
That reminds me, I've got a Honda Civic that needs some body work done. Oh, and there is possibly a little bit of contact. John Wilson and I think that was Joaquin Effinger in the 700 machine, as they got side by side. It may have been what they call net code, where the computer's trying to, or the servers are trying to determine how close they are to one another. And Joaquin Effinger there getting a little love tap, going to the grass. He's going to let some of these machines go by him on the front straight.
Yeah, he's already having a rough night down in 18th, a lap down. I think he just wants to finish this race and move on to next week, which I can't blame him for that.
That's right. And now we've got Megan Overstreet. She's challenging Kayla Pocock, who you just talked about a moment ago, who started 16th, is now in 8th position. And Overstreet, who started on row number, who started 4th on the outside of row number 2, now finds herself in 9th, trying to make her way back up through the field. We'll see if she tries to affect the pass here on Pocock. Again, as time is running down, we've only got 4 minutes remaining here from Mid-Ohio.
Oh, Pocock makes a mistake, and Megan takes advantage of it, and there you go. P8 for her. That's what you got to do. Track like this, you just have to take advantage of every mistake they make, and sometimes you have to push the boundaries. And fortunately for her, she wasn't able, or she didn't have to do that right there. He kind of just handed it to her, which you'll take those as well.
All right, here's a great little fight that's been going on for a number of laps. This is Charles Bailey in the 63 machine, the black car. John Wilson directly behind in the 82, and then Kyle Vallejos in the number 35 machine. This is the battle just off the podium, the battle for 5th. And they have been either nose to tail, or like we're watching right now with Bailey and Wilson side by side coming through the carousel. And that's going to give a little bit of an advantage now to Charles Bailey in that black number 63 machine, as Vallejos finds himself now ahead of Wilson. So move him up to 6th. Megan Overstreet in 8th is now, you can see the amount of ground that she made up on Pocock earlier, and I think Pocock might have fallen off the track as well. Pocock now falls all the way back to 15th position, but Megan Overstreet sitting in 8th. She's part of this fight now too.
Yeah, and she's running about a second faster, maybe even a second and a half faster than these 3 guys right here. And we were talking about Charles, and he hit the grass a little bit right there and out of the first corner. So he's going to be challenged for 5th right here by Kyle Vallejos. Oh, and they make contact, and oh my goodness.
Oh, yep, and all 3 of them there. That was Vallejos, Bailey, and Wilson all getting together under braking going into turn number 4, and you can see Bailey still having some issues getting that car back underway. That will now move Overstreet from 8th to 5th in the span of 1 corner, as we have another driver who's just gone for the wild ride. I think that was Justin Huffman, that looked as though his Miata had been through a war zone or maybe 2 tours of duty.
Yeah, and Megan drove right past all 3 of those. That was like just an opening, and that's what you want right there, is to move past it and gain 3 positions. So she is up to P5. A nice recovery for her after that treacherous start at the beginning of the race.
All right, and we were just watching a few moments ago Reed Shannabrook in 3rd position, back behind Josh Soto. Soto has moved back up into 2nd spot. As we look now, Michael Mueller, great run for Mueller, as well as Charles Vaccaro directly behind. Those 2 drivers, well, actually there's the 24 of Mueller, and made up 7 positions so far, and Charles Vaccaro in the blue and red machine just a little bit further back. Started off in 21st position. He now finds himself in 12th. As we jump back up to the battle as we only have a minute left on the clock, and I believe we are on the last lap here at Mid-Ohio. This is the battle for second. Beans Forster has worked his way clear. He's got about 3.5 second advantage, but Josh Soto under attack from Reed Shanabrook as they've been for a good portion of this race. Soto getting a little loose, coming out of madness, coming down into turn number 5, going through the S's, as they're now going to come down this small little drop set up for the right-hander. That is turn 9. They're going to come up the hill, crest over the hill, and back down. And Shanabrook and Soto keeping pretty much a static gap between them right now. About, we're running about a quarter of a second. And as Beans Forster now comes through the final corners, through the carousel, and onto the front straight, Beans Forster takes race number 2, our race number 2 of the evening, first race of the season for the Spec Miatas. Beans Forster is your winner. Josh Soto holds off Reed Shanabrook at the line. Soto will come home in second. Shanabrook takes home the final podium paying position. Morgan Burkhardt, who fell all the way down to 18th position, he's going to finish 4th. Megan Overstreet, who for 2 corners led this race and then fell back to, I believe 14th position. She finishes in 5th. Great recovery drive for both of those drivers. John Wilson will finish 6th. Miles Crabb will finish 7th. Then we've got Michael Mueller, Charles Vaccaro, and Charles Bailey rounding out your top 10. What a drive there, and a great drive there, Jack, by Forster, who just opened things up after a while as Shanabrook and Soto started fighting and just left the field for dead.
Yeah, it looked like the couple of guys that run, 6th, 7th, 8th most of the time, they were up there in P2 and P3, and looks like they just got together and caused that big gap. And I mean, Beans was just able to pull away with it. That's what you can do without the power of the draft right behind you, right?
That's it. That's exactly what happens. All right, so we'll wait to see if Josh Soto makes an appearance, or maybe we'll be able to talk to Reed Shanabrook. We see Morgan Burkhardt's just popped in, but let's do this. Let's bring in Beans Forster, taking the win tonight in Spec Miata for the first race of the season here in the Ray Sports Racing League.
Beans, how you doing, buddy? Good victory tonight. And what were your thoughts on turn 1, lap 1? Because it was crazy for us to watch.
It was interesting because going into turn 1, my spotter was telling me that there was a car on the left of me too, going 3 wide, and then at the same time Morgan was kind of slipping and sliding in the front, and then going through the bus stop again. My spotter was telling me I was going 3 wide, and then seeing another car flying across the track coming out of the keyhole. I had no clue what to think.
Do you think that it was cold tires that played the factor? Because that's what we were speculating before the race, that cold tires were going to play a big factor the first couple laps.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, especially with the way they have this car now, that you really have to baby it on cold tires. And when the tires do come in, it's just completely different, and the slides are super controllable.
And we saw, you had a couple challengers up there. They were keeping in your draft, and then those two made contact, and you were able to pull away. What were your thoughts when you pulled away that, second and a half, 2 second gap?
Oh, I was just telling Morgan a little bit ago that I think every race that I've done here at Mid-Ohio and the Ray Esports League, I've always messed it away somehow, just kind of like in the SRF race. I would always just do something like that. So once I started seeing a gap building, I just kind of had to keep telling myself to calm down, be patient, and sure enough, it worked.
All right, well, that was a fun drive tonight, and thank you for entertaining us as usual. Is there anybody that you would like to thank this week?
I want to thank all you guys for putting on such a good show, all the drivers here for their excellent performance on track, and Team Watson Racing and Full Sun Sims.
Alrighty, well, thank you, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Beans Forster, our winner tonight in Spec Miata. And Jack, let's bring in for the second time tonight, and I'm sure he would have preferred that the situation was a little different, but let's bring in Josh Soto, finishing second tonight for the second race this evening in Spec Miata.
So Josh, we saw you go in the grass a couple times to avoid incidents, and it didn't quite work out for you. Do you think they should just pave this place completely, or what?
Oh yeah. I think they should do a whole remodeling, just everything pavement, kind of like a Sebring too.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, the first time it worked out, and then the second time it didn't really work out, and you made contact, but you were still able to recover to P2. So tell us how that went for you tonight, because you had a pretty hectic race.
Oh yeah. Well, lap one, just trying to avoid the incidents and everything. There's a couple spins. I managed to get a cone stuck in my car in the first lap, but luckily it came out. But yeah, going into the final laps, well, mid race there was an incident, and I think I had got a little bit of damage from I think it was Skip's car when he had went around. But yeah, we managed to get back to second, and just try to keep up a good pace to be able to catch back up.
Well, it's not 2 wins tonight, but it's a couple of P2 finishes. You can't be mad at that. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank for your P2 finishes tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my friends and my family for supporting me, and yeah.
Alrighty, well, thank you, and we will see you next week, man. Hopefully you can get one of these P2s to turn into a victory.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you.
All right, there you go, Josh Soto. Congratulations to him on 2 podium finishes here tonight. And so, Jack, as we get ready to wrap things up here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, once again, some very exciting racing, and this group of Ray Esports racers, they always know week after week how to bring the excitement.
Yeah, that's an understatement. These guys are, some of the best that I've seen in league racing on iRacing, and they all race so clean and fair and respectful, and it's just a blast to call every week, and I love doing it. So I'm excited for next week at Sonoma, right?
That's it. It's going to be a great time there in California wine country. Always a challenging course with that huge rise up to turn 2 at Sonoma. And then also the hairpin, which with the tire bundles made of cement. So let's wrap things up as Jack said. Next Tuesday night, May 23rd at 8:30 p.m. we are going to be at Sonoma Raceway. You don't want to miss it. And I want to thank both Jack and also Lee Thompson with spinning all the dials and twisting all the little knobby things to give us replays and all the great camera views here of tonight's action. And of course, our sponsors, Common Gear, Paddock Motorsports, Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, and Spec Racer Sports. We couldn't put on this series without you. And of course, Stevie Ray from Ray Esports Racing and Greg Hubler, our administrators. So for the entire crew, I'm Greg Ginsburg, and we'll see you next Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a wonderful week, everybody.